Alright, this is chapter number 1. Now, I'm just going to be reading it out, looking up periodically at the camera, but I'm just going to read through, and at the end of the chapter, I'm going to pretty much just talk about what I thought about it. My suggestion is just to pretty much put headphones in and just listen to this like you would an audiobook. If you can tolerate the sound of my voice, then yeah, that is what I would recommend. But let's begin. Chapter 1. What are you afraid of and why? I am about to teach another fear class. This classroom is empty. I'm waiting for my new group of students to appear. My nervousness about teaching these classes disappeared a long time ago. Not only have I taught it many times, but I also know my students before I meet them. They are like the rest of us, all trying to do the best they can and all uncertain about whether they're good enough. It never varies. As the students enter the room, I can feel the tension. They sit as far apart from one another as possible, until the seats between must be filled because of lack of space. They don't talk to one another, but sit nervously, expectantly. I love them for their courage to admit that their lives are not working the way they want them to work. And their presence in the class signifies that they are ready to do something about it. I begin by going around the room asking each student to tell the rest of us what he or she is having difficulty confronting in life. Their stories unfold. Don wants to change his career of 14 years and follow his dream of becoming an artist. Mary Alice is an actress who wants to discover why she finds all kinds of excuses for not attending auditions. Sarah wants to leave a marriage of 15 years. Teddy wants to get over his fear of aging. He is all of 32. Jean is a senior citizen who wants to confront her doctor. He treats her like a child and never gives her any straight answers. Patty wants to expand her business, but can't make the required leap to the next step. Rebecca wants to confront her husband with things that have been bothering her. Kevin wants to get over a fear of rejection that makes it very difficult to ask a woman for a date. Lori wants to know why she is unhappy when she has everything one could possibly want in life. Richard is retired and feels useless. He fears his life is over. And so it goes until everyone's story is heard. I'm fascinated with what happens during the go-around. As each person shares from the heart, the entire atmosphere begins to change. The tension quickly fades and relief is expressed on everyone's face. First, my students begin to realize that they are not the only ones in the world feeling afraid. Second, they begin to show how attractive people become as they open up and share their feelings. Long before the last person has spoken, a feeling of warmth and camaraderie pervades the room. They are strangers no more. Although the backgrounds and situations of the class members vary greatly, it does not take long for the surface layers of their particular stories to disappear, opening the way for everyone to touch on a very human level. The common denominator is the fact that fear is keeping all of them from experiencing life the way they want to experience it. The scenario above repeats itself in each fear class I teach. At this point, you might be wondering how one course can accommodate all the diverse fears reported by the class members. Their needs seem to be so varied. It's true. They do seem varied until we dig a little deeper and look at the underlying cause of all their fears and everyone else's. Fear can be broken down to 3 levels. The first level is the surface story. such as the ones described above. This level of fear can be divided into two parts. This level of fear can be divided into two types: those that happen and those that require action. Here is a particular list of level 1 fears divided into these types. Level 1 fears: those that happen: aging, becoming disabled, retirement, being alone, children leaving home, natural disasters, loss of financial security, change, dying, war, illnesses. Those requiring action: going back to school, making decisions, changing a career, making friends, ending or beginning a relationship, going to the doctor, asserting oneself, losing weight, being interviewed, driving. Those that happen: losing a loved one, accidents, rape. Those requiring action: public speaking, making a mistake, intimacy. You might have a few you can add to the list. As I hinted earlier, you wouldn't be alone if you said to yourself, some of the above or even all of the above. There is a reason for this. One of the insidious qualities of fear is that it tends to permeate many areas of our lives. For example, if you fear making new friends, it then stands to reason that you also may fear going to parties, having intimate relationships, applying for jobs, and so on. This is made clearer by a look at the second layer of fear, which has very different feel from that of level 1. Level 2 fears are not situation oriented. They involve the ego. Level 2 fears: rejection, success, failure, being vulnerable, being conned, helplessness, disapproval, loss of image. Level 2 fears have to do with inner states of mind rather than exterior situations. They reflect your sense of self and your ability to handle this world. This explains why generalized fear takes place. If you are afraid of being rejected, this fear will affect almost every area of your life: friends, intimate relationships, job interviews, and so on. Rejection is rejection, wherever it is found. So you begin to protect yourself and, as a result, greatly limit yourself. You begin to shut down and close out the world around you. Look over the level 2 list once again, and you will see how any one of these fears can greatly impact many areas of your life. Level 3 gets down to the nitty-gritty of the issue. The biggest fear of all. The one that really keeps you stuck. Are you ready? Level 3 fear: I can't handle it. That's it. That's the big deal. You may ask, I know you're disappointed and wanted something much more dramatic than that, but the truth is this: at the bottom of every one of your fears is simply the fear that you can't handle whatever life may bring you. Let's test this. The level 1 fears translate to: I can't handle illness. I can't handle making a mistake. I can't handle losing my job. I can't handle getting old. I can't handle being alone. I can't handle making a fool out of myself. I can't handle not getting the job. I can't handle losing him or her. I can't handle losing my money, etc. Level 2 fears translate to: I can't handle the responsibilities of success. I can't handle failure. I can't handle being rejected, etc. Level 3. Thus, level 3 simply: I can't handle it. The truth is, if you knew you could handle anything that came your way, what would you possibly have to fear? The answer is nothing. I know you are probably not jumping up and down for joy just yet, but believe me when I tell you that I have just given you a great piece of news. That I have just told you means, wait, what I have just told you means you can handle all your fears without having to control anything in the outside world. This should be a tremendous relief. You no longer have to control what your mate does, what your friends do, what your children do, or what your boss does. You don't have to control what happens at an interview, what happens at your job, what happens in your new career, what happens to your money, or what happens in the stock market. All you have to do is diminish your fear. All you have to do to diminish your fear is to develop more trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. I am belaboring the point because it is so critical. From this moment on, every time you feel afraid, remind yourself that it is simply because you are not feeling good enough about yourself. Then proceed to use one or more of the tools in this book to help build yourself up. You have your task clearly mapped out for you. There is no reason for confusion. I have often been asked to explain why we have so little trust in ourselves. I don't really know the answer to that. I know that some fear is instinctual and healthy and keeps us alert to trouble. The rest, the part that holds us back from personal growth, is inappropriate and destructive, and perhaps can be blamed on our conditioning. In all my life, I have never heard a mother call out to her child as he or she goes off to school, "Take a lot of risks today, darling." She is more likely to convey to her child, "Be careful, darling." This "be careful" carries with it a double message. The word is really dangerous out there, and you won't be able to handle it. What mom is really saying, of course, is if something happens to you, I won't be able to handle it. You see, let me read that over. In all my life, I have never heard a mother call out to her child as he or she goes off to school, "Take a lot of risks today, darling." She is more likely to convey to her child, "Be careful, darling." She is more likely to convey to her child, "Be careful, darling." This "be careful" carries with it a double message. The world is really dangerous out there, and you won't be able to handle it. What mom is really saying, of course, is if something happens to you, I won't be able to handle it. You see, she is only passing on her lack of trust in her ability to handle what comes her way. I can remember wanting desperately to have a two-wheel bicycle, and my mother's refusal to buy me one. Her answer to my pleas was always the same. "I love you too much. I don't want anything to happen to you." I translated this to mean you are not competent enough to handle a two-wheel bike. Having become older and wiser, I realize now that what she was really saying. If anything happens to you, I will fall apart. This overprotective mother of mine was once in intensive care after serious surgery, with tubes down her nose and her throat. When I was told it was time for me to leave, I whispered in her ear, not knowing if she could hear me, that I loved her and would be back later. As I was walking towards the door, I heard a small, weak voice behind me saying, "You guessed it, be careful." Even in her anesthetic stupor, she was sending me I don't even know how to say that word. She was sending me admonitions of doom and gloom, and I know she typifies the great percentage of mothers out there. Considering how many "be carefuls" our parents bombarded us with, it is amazing that we even managed to walk out the front door. Apart from such seemingly obvious connections, the cause of our fear quite possibly lies elsewhere. But does it really matter where our self-doubts come from? I believe not. It is not my approach to analyze the whys and whereofs of troublesome areas of the mind. It is often impossible to figure out what the actual cause and negative patterns are, and even if we did know, the knowing doesn't necessarily change them. I believe that if something is troubling you, simply start from where you are and take the action necessary to change it. In this case, you know that you don't like the fact that lack of trust in yourself is stopping you from getting what you want out of life. Knowing this creates a very clear, even laser-like focus on what needs to be changed. You don't have to scatter your energy wondering why. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you begin now to develop your trust in yourself until you reach the point where you will be able to say, whatever happens to me, given any situation, I can handle it. I can hear the doubting Thomases out there saying, oh, come on now. How do you handle paralysis or the death of a child or cancer? I understand your skepticism. Remember that I was once a doubting Thomas myself. Just read on and let the book unfold. Give yourself a winning chance by using the tools provided throughout this book. As you do, you will find yourself coming closer and closer to such a high level of self-confidence that you will ultimately begin to realize that you can handle anything that comes your way. Never let these three little words out of your mind. Possibly the three most important little words you will ever hear. I'll handle it. That was chapter 1. As you can see, chapter's pretty short. That was good though. Chapter 1. She goes into saying that at the root of everything, every fear you have, there is this idea that you can't handle it. So if you just take on the outlook or the perspective of I will handle it or I'll handle it, then that gives you dominion over that fear. It gives you power over that fear. You are no longer bound to that emotion of fear because you know deep down that you'll handle it. And as you can see, I had to stop when I read the part and reread over. She said that mothers or parents to say be careful instead of saying take a lot of risks today, because ultimately what they're doing is placing their fears upon their child. Yeah, it's cool to be careful and like don't do stupid shit. Of course, you should have enough confidence in your child from the upbringing to realize that they won't do stupid shit. But really, ultimately, what saying be careful is conveying to the child, or what the child translates into is basically the world is big and scary and I should be on the lookout. But what's really happening deep down from the parent is if anything was to happen to you, it would fuck me up. That was good. It was a good chapter. Like I said, I read this book a while ago. It's pretty good. It's a small book. See, it's only 12 chapters. By the way, the author is Susan Jeffers, or Dr. Susan Jeffers. But yeah, that was chapter 1. Tell me what you think. Leave in the comments if you enjoy this chapter 1. Like I said, tell me what you think. Give it a thumbs up. Share it. Feel like you could help others. Share the whole playlist. I'll be doing the other chapters in the next couple of days, or the next couple of weeks, rather. Tell me what you think. And obvious, I slipped on a few words. It was a word that I didn't know. I mean, I pronounced it correctly. I assume so. But hopefully my voice was soothing enough where you could tolerate it. But yeah, tell me what you think. Until the next video, I'm out. Peace.